Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Apex Racing TV and to the Digital Motorsports YouTube channel. This is the Digital Motorsports Indy Pro 2000 Cup, the Pro-Am tier today, sponsored by Next Level Racing. My name is Jack Cannan. Alongside me is Sam Fitzpatrick, as always. We're here in Watkins, Glen for the Pro-Am class. We're broadcasting both the tiers tonight, and we're really looking forward to what's in store for the drivers today. As we say, Watkins, Glen, we're now going to have a quick look at a lap around this wonderful circuit here in the US.
Hi, I'm Scott Mantle, head coach from Driver 61, where we train real-world and sim racers to be faster on track. And today I'm going to be analysing this onboard footage, taking a look at the driver's driving style and in particular the excellent trail braking. So here we are coming through the S's at Watkins Glen, an absolutely fantastic part of the track, but absolutely flat out in this car. So we're just trying to minimise the steering input here, keeping the car as free as possible. Now as we come down to the inner loop, the really quick right-left chicane, take a look at the brake pressure that the driver takes in there. You can see that he's using just a very delicate touch on the brake pedal to make sure that the nose of the car is sticking as he turns into the corner, but that the car is not over-rotating as he goes into the apex. And again there, as he's come into the chute part of the circuit, you can see how delicate the driver is on the brake pedal, absolute necessity to be quick. Now we're heading down to toe, and again he's trail braking in a little bit deeper into this part of the corner, as you typically would do with hairpin corners, to keep the nose loaded up and keep the car positive as he enters the hairpin. Now it's also important with the brake pedal and when you're trail braking to make sure that the car doesn't over rotate, that the car doesn't oversteer as you enter the corner, because this will also cost you lots of time if the rear end isn't as settled as it needs to be. From watching the steering angle and the brake pedal pressure in this car, you can see that the driver's got the car in the absolute perfect position. The body language of the car is really excellent and is extracting the most amount of speed possible on the lap that we see here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned something from this video. If you do want to find out more about how to be faster in the sim, check out Driver 61.
And that is a lap around Watkins Glen. You're watching the Digital Motorsports Indy Pro 2000 Pro-Am tier, sponsored by Next Level Racing and supported by iRacing and Driver 61. Sam Fitzpatrick, I'm going to bring you in right now. Watkins Glen, in these cars, drivers are talking about how much the toe is so beneficial down towards the bus stop. And I think this is a track that really suits these cars. High downforce and plenty of speed and plenty of toe.
Absolutely. Hello to all the listeners. Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic circuit for these cars. They seem to be a lot of fun, to be fair, wherever we go. Virginia, which is one of the drivers' least favourite circuits, even then, they looked really great. You know, they're constantly sliding on these cars. They're not like Formula 3 cars, where they're absolutely glued to the ground and any kind of sliding on the tyres is very much warned against. With these things, you kind of got to bundle it up on the brakes. You're constantly sliding about to get the most out of the car. So no, around this cycle, which is one of the favourites for these drivers, it's going to be great. And that toe, as you say, is going to be absolutely pivotal. Lots of overtaking to be made, and a few new drivers as well for us to commentate on. Our first time commentating on this amateur championship, so should be good fun.
Yeah, exactly. The championship a little bit closer than the pro tier, which we're much more used to. Naveed Hussain leading the title here in the Pro-Am class with Rory O'Shea behind him. There is Naveed. Last time we saw him, of course, was when we broadcasted the 4th of July special at Phoenix, where all of the tiers were merged together. So Naveed Hussain, the title leader, Rory O'Shea behind him, and James Clark, Jan Montero, and Ronan Hederman in the top 5. Gap between the top 2 is 21 points as opposed to 50 odd in the pro class, so there's still plenty to play for here. Same format as the pro class. It is the heat race and then the feature race, and plenty to come as well in regards to the racing. But Naveed Hussain, currently the quickest man out on circuit at the moment, with Rory O'Shea behind him. So the two title contenders are 1 and 2. Damien McMullen in 3rd as well. Rob O'Neill, Colby James, Dave Collier, Nathan Healy, Jan Montero, then Shane Conley, Kevin Shine, Patrick McKenna, and James Clark, who a couple of guys, those guys have yet to set a time. But quite a small turnout here today, in opposed to the pro tier, and bit of a shame for that, but might be a chance for some drivers like Damien McMullen to get their chance at a podium, because in the Pro Tier we've seen so many drivers get their first wins. Plenty of drivers here still yet to get their first podium as well. Plenty of drivers still yet to win in this tier as well. 3 laps of qualifying around here, and then we'll head to the first race of the day. On board now with Kevin Shine. Now, normally you'd curve off to the right-hand side on the classic layout, but Sam, I think this is the famous bit. This is what they like to call the boot.
Yeah, and this is one of the best pieces of tarmac in the world. Usually, when a track has a change to it, kind of Nürburgring GP, for example, with the arena section, we had Hockenheim as well, which was altered quite a bit, and maybe we'll say Silverstone as well. And there's countless other particularly European circuits which have changed over the years. And when you change a bit of the circuit, it kind of loses something. Not around this place. It's faster and flowing through the first few corners, got elevator change, and that is what this boot section is like as well. It's a good challenge for the drivers. You can overtake, but it is still quite tricky. But it's just a whole lot of fun. Each of the corners is very different, and then back onto this traditional layout, which of course the NASCAR series still uses. Shine there in the rev limits, going into the final corner. That's quite unusual. Maybe just not wanting to shift the gears, although I think on that occasion it would have been useful. Still puts himself up into second place, still 1 second off pole. But it's a very strong time from the car number 40. Looks like he'll be starting on the front row of the grid. Doesn't look like there's well, actually no, there's still a few more drivers out on circuit. However, they're starting their 3rd laps, and maybe there could be some improvements. There are quite a few drivers now approaching the line. So Rory O'Shea will be the first to come to the line. He wants to start in second place if he possibly can, and it's not good enough. He improves. Couple of personal best sectors there, but just not hitching up that podium. I'm sure his theoretical time would have put him in second place, but lines up in 3rd in the end. And McKenna, who has won a race already this season, I believe, puts himself up into 3rd. So issues for Roy O'Shea there.
Yeah, not the best for the championship contender there. He needs to obviously get a better start, get himself further up there. Rob O'Neill heading towards the last couple of corners right now, heading towards the last corner now. Careful not to run it out too wide right there, clouting the curb on the inside. There's a wall waiting to greet you on the exit there. Comes to the line. Where does Rob O'Neill slot himself? Does he slot himself any further up the grid? It does look like it slots himself 1 place higher into 8th place for Rob O'Neill. Not bad at all. There is James Clark. Now he is just coming towards the last sector as well on his final lap. Here he comes. The last 3 corners now around the hairpin, getting a little bit twitchy on the exit. And now heading towards the last 2 corners, flicking it into the left-hander and into the fast right-hander. Plenty of drivers leaving it in 4th gear here, touching the rev limiter as he comes into the last corner. Then coming up to the line, where does James Clark go? Coming to the line now. Does he improve his position on the grid? He comes across the line, and it is going to be 11th fastest for James Clark. Not ideal for him, and frustrated, goes straight into the wall in the first corner. But 11th fastest for James Clark, but a very decisive pole for Naveed Hussain, almost a second faster.
Yeah, it's mighty, isn't it? That is really strong. I'm just looking through the points because obviously I'm not totally familiar with what's gone on so far this championship. But Hussain hasn't dominated this series. I think he's got maybe 3 wins this season. It has been very good in the race ones, to be fair. In fact, I think he has got a perfect record in race ones, but he hasn't been able to back it up in the feature races so far this season, has Hussain. So that's where he'll be wanting to improve today and try to score maximum points if he possibly can. So he's certainly the favourite for this one, but if the drivers behind him can stay close to the first couple of corners, you have got a chance at getting the draft and passing into the bus stop on that point, and at that point could get a little bit tricky for Hussain. But I think if he can get through that first half lap still in the lead, he's going to be very tricky to catch.
Yep, just having a quick look there. Samuel Akuma brings up the attributes for today. The temperatures, 41 degrees Celsius track temperature here, which is quite toasty. 19 degrees ambient temperatures, so very, very varying temperatures between the air and the track, so double the air temperature. But here's your grid then for the first heat race of round 5. Naveed Hussain, by a second, takes pole over Kevin Shine, that does a very nice job to stick it on the front row. Patrick McKenna, a couple of hundreds behind in third, Rory O'Shea in fourth, Colby James in fifth, Damien McMullen in a great top 10 start, Dave Collier, Rob O'Neill, Nathan Healy, Jan Montero. Then it'll be James Clark and Shane Connolly to round out the 12th car grid for Watkins Glen. Heat race number 1, Naveed Hussain on the left, Kevin Shine on the right. Lights out and away we go. Good start from Hussain, good start from Shine, and looks like a great one from Rory O'Shea as a couple of cars bogged down off the line, and Rory O'Shea gets through from row 3 to row 1 into turn number 1. Naveed Hussain, Rory O'Shea, Dave Collier up to third place now as he fights with Damien McMullen through turn number 1, all looking clean so far. A couple of drivers running wide, but no major problems for the guys here. Hussain clear, Rory O'Shea second, Collier third, McMullen and Colby James and Montero now fighting as they come down towards the bus stop chicane. The best overtaking opportunity of the lap here. You'll see now Montero will try to get the toe off the car in front, but Colby James also now trying to fight with Damien McMullen. McMullen trying to look for a move here as up the inside goes James. He can't, Montero, sorry, and he couldn't quite get it done right there, but they're all filing single file through. No wishes, I'll say that. And one car goes off. Colby James spins it around at the exit of the bus stop chicane at his home race here in the US. Gets it back going again, but no other casualties, no cars on the wall. Everybody clean away, but crucially, Hussain is clear, but Rory O'Shea got a fantastic start and he's chasing his championship rival now.
The starting positions didn't really matter in the end, did they? Because the starts were so varied between the drivers that the entire field is completely mixed up compared to what it started at. O'Shea, of course, experienced driver, got the launch all right, but Hussain already breaking the job 1.2 seconds, so looking very good for Naveed at the moment. Collier up 4 places, Clark up 6 places, and McKenna down 7 places. Former race winner this season, McKenna, and yet he started in 3rd place down into 10th right now. Expect him to come back. Should be a tight battle now for that final podium spot. I think few gaps starting to form between the drivers, and now it's James Clark who is looking the most under pressure from Montero. Just got a bit of a poor exit there, has Montero. Such a tricky final corner with the wall on the outside of the circuit, very different to the rest of the track where usually have a bountiful grass on the outside, at least on this rather old scan of this circuit. Meanwhile, McKenna gets ahead of Rob O'Neill. So that's one of the places back for McKenna. He's got to gain a few more though, coming in the next few laps.
Rob O'Neill coming back in him now as he heads down towards the bus stop chicane. Where's he going to go? O'Neill's going to go to the inside line, opens up the space on the inside line. Can he get it stopped at the bus stop? It's a very high speed part of the circuit up the inside. McKenna hangs around the outside, just gets it a bit later on the brakes, keeps it together. Couple of position swaps earlier on as well. Kevin Shine up to 6th place, and James Clark moves ahead of McMullen into 4th place. Now there is McMullen just behind James Clark right now, so there is James just ahead of McMullen as they file through now, and now James Clark chasing after Dave Collier, who's in a nice 3rd place at the moment, and just 10 laps around here. And because of the numbers on the grid, quite a low turnout today, it'll be a full reverse grid. So the top 15 would normally be reversed, but the driver in last will start on pole. So either way, it's in Colby James's interest to just get it round to the end. It doesn't matter if you get any spots; it'll definitely be guaranteed pole position for the feature race. So full reverse grid, not normally used to that, but there's only 12 drivers on the grid, so may as well make use of it when we can. But Colby James spinning on lap number 1, and he falls down. Now here is Nathan Healy under pressure from Patrick McKenna, who's in the car just behind him there. We're just on the rear wing now of Nathan Healy as he files through the last corner. He's got the position number 9 car of Patrick McKenna right behind him. Naveed Hussain going very quick effort, another fastest lap, and now in the draft, Patrick McKenna down towards turn 1. Does he move to the inside line? He shows himself in the mirrors on the inside, goes late on the brakes up the inside. Healy leaves him the room, but he manages to hang it around the outside. There's a little bit of runoff to use right there, not too much though. You'll manage to get an off track, but now McKenna going to have a great toe up the hill, but there's nowhere to make a move here. He's going to get stuck behind Healy for just a moment now as they come over the crest of the hill. McKenna now moves to the outside line. You'll see Rob O'Neill. He's getting a front row seat for this now. McKenna to the inside. Where does Rob O'Neill go? He's in the toe of McKenna. He's going to try and slot up the middle here. He's going to try and make it 3 wide.
Nice.
Massive off for Patrick McKenna and for Nathan Healy. Rob O'Neill tried to make it 3 wide, but that was never, ever going to work. And McKenna and Healy are victims.
mean, I don't know if he has claustrophobia, but he had no aware of his surroundings right there, O'Neill. Or maybe he should have had claustrophobia because that would have prevented him from going for that incredibly small gap. I'm not sure if the gap was ever larger than a car's width. I don't know what the plan there on the Great King was. Somehow it's O'Neill who gets away with it without the penalty, despite the fact that that was all on him, it seemed then, unless maybe a driver moved across on the brakes, but it seems to be O'Neill's fault, and that rather scuppers that battle. Let's see if they got a whole lot of damage, because that could change who's on pole for later on. It seems like Healy's all right. He has got James quite close to him. Maybe just keep an eye out on that for the coming laps, because yeah, those two would be on the front row of the grid. Currently for the next race, does seem a little bit slow there. Does Healy just running wide for a couple of corners, and here comes James and down the inside there. So let's see if maybe Healy has to come into the pits on this time round. But yeah, absolutely craziness behind into that final corner, and he does come into the pit. So that looks like it'll be a reverse grid pole there for Nathan Healy. Fastest lap, by the way, for Naveed Hussein. You may have seen that pop up on the timing tower in purple. He's only 0.3 of a second faster than O'Shea, so it is closer than what we saw in qualifying. But still, an advantage at the moment for the championship leader. Collier very nearly being able to go for the move on Clark. That was astonishing, the amounts of time he gained down that back straight, but wasn't quite close enough.
No, not quite. He just got overtaken in the previous lap by James Clark. So Dave Collier back and forth now. It's a little bit of pressure being put on by Damien McMullen right behind them now. And just behind them is Kevin Shine. But Naveed Hussein is just having a great old drive out front. Rory O'Shea behind him. So keep him with his rival, which is what he needs to do in the points race. But ideally he needs to be in front of him. So he needs a mistake from Naveed, which is not easily done. He's 3 seconds ahead of Rory O'Shea, as you can see on the time deltas right there. James Clark kind of about 4 seconds behind Rory O'Shea. So Rory O'Shea is in reality, should I say, is in a world of his own right there. He's kind of in no man's land. He's got nowhere to, no one in front of. Oh, that's Dave Collier spinning in the third last corner right there. Seems to have just lost it by himself, but that drops him out of fourth. Let's have a quick look here. But it did look like it was a spin by himself, all done of his own accord.
Yeah, that was James's incident just on the boots, and this was Collier's, and he's lost it by himself right there. It's a tricky corner, that, because the vast majority of the corners around this circuit are cambered, and then that one's pretty much flat. So you have got that little kind of concrete patch as well, which does help the car around. But on the entry, at least, it's you kind of go up the hill and then plateaus. Here is a move potentially of car number 40, Kevin Shine, getting past Damien Mulqueen. There's such an obvious pun there. I'm going to use that one. And McMullen, apologies, drops down to 5th place. Now let's see if Shine can maybe go after Clark. A couple of places being gained by Shine recently, and certainly moving forwards up this field.
Yeah, Kevin had a pretty poor start. Remember, he started on the front row, drops way down the order, but is fighting his way back now, back up to 4th place now. Now he's got 3 seconds to make up on James Clark in front of him. Kevin Shine, Damien Mullen, Jan Montero making good ground as well, up to 6th place. Rob O'Neill also just behind him there after the incident, the three abreast incident. Nathan Healy is back running again in 12th place, so he's repaired the car and got back going. So Jean Montero now, the Portuguese driver, in 6th place on the chase of McMullen ahead of him. Rob O'Neill in 7th. Shane Connolly in 8th. Dave Collier after his spin is 9th. Patrick McKenna after the incident between himself and Rob O'Neill, and Nathan Healy is down in 10th. Another fastest lap from Naveed Hussein in the lead of this race. Rory O'Shea, he's almost, he's about 0.8 of a second quicker than him at the moment. So Naveed Hussein, the drivers have been kind of saying that Naveed should be in pro, and right now I think he's proving that he kind of should be.
Maybe get the sandbags out and prove them wrong. I'm not sure. He's only just winning the championship, and like I said earlier on, Hussein hasn't been great in the race too, but in terms of its out-and-out pace, he is, yeah, certainly pro. Now, we knew that before this season, to be fair. I mean, previous seasons of Digital Motorsports he's taken part in, and certainly has established himself as a top driver. So no, it is a little bit of a shame that we're not seeing him go against the likes of the Dempsey brothers and Oscar Mangan as well up in top straight, which of course will be coming up after this race in about 40 minutes time. In the pits is McKenna. Hopefully we'll see him back out on circuit. I think he's back on his way. In fact, is Patrick. So I think we'll see him on circuit, or maybe he's towed out of the car. I think no, he is on circuit. He is on circuit. Yeah, so car number 11 back out on track. He'll try to go for a couple of quick laps, and yeah, pole position is looking very strong for him at the moment for race 2, which is where he wants to be. Although Costi need to nail the start. McKenna with an awful start, lost 6 or 7 places on the run down to turn 1, and so we'll be needing to work on that for race 2. But Rob O'Neill, or Kevin Shine, in fact, has got past James Clark. What has happened to James Clark? I think he's lost connection potentially, because he just seems to have disappeared in an instant, or he's had a big crash and just towed back to the pits, or quit from the session. Oh no, it is a mistake. Hard into the wall, takes a couple of wheels off it, and straight back to the pits.
Such a simple error, just got on the grass and it punished him brutally, ripped the rear off the car, and James Clark from 3rd place now goes back down to last. So if he gets the car back going again, he will be on the reverse grid pole. So there's a silver lining there. But Kevin Shine promoted to 3rd, McMullen to 4th, Jean Montero up to 5th. Everyone promoted 1 spot up as a result. The only people who haven't been promoted are Rory O'Shea and Naveed Hussain, who are 1 and 2 at the moment out front. Kevin Shine recovering nicely back to 3rd place after his torrid start. But this is a quite close little fight right here for 4th place now. McMullen, Montero and Rob O'Neill all together on track at this point. So they're all almost within the draft range of each other. Montero slightly wider line than O'Neill right there, and O'Neill just caught him a few tenths right there, just even if he just did go a little bit wide. If you run off line in that camber, you're not going to have a good time. And O'Neill had much tighter line on the inside. You can see how much time he gains just by running the tighter line on the inside, like using the camber to his advantage, and that's brought him up right up to the back of Jean Montero in front of him. Moves into the mirrors, just showing himself that he's there, late on the brakes, and again a tighter line, but just loses it a little bit on the entry right there, just spotted. And that is Shane Connolly, been in the wall as well, and now he's out and back in the pit lane as well. Let's see if we can see what happened to Shane Connolly here. So he's coming out of the heel and just gets it into the wall again, just loses it on the rear end, and rear suspension damage. Tried to get back going again, but no, that car wedged itself on the curb, and that's I've done that many times before, so Shane, don't feel bad.
Now that's the knee damage model, or not so knee damage model. Now showing itself off. It is fantastic to have all the bits of the cars fly off, and of course the suspension as well, which iRacing has done a very good job at to change what happens when you have an incident like that. O'Neill ahead now of Montero, who was glitching out, and he's still glitching out slightly, but he is still behind his own point. He's not picking up quite as big a draft as he ought to be down into the bus stop. So O'Neill up into 5th now. On that last lap, he was actually slower than McMullen, so I doubt he's going to get anywhere close to the car number 9. Now we've got 2 seconds for him to catch, and about 2.5 laps to go. So yeah, it's looking very unlikely for O'Neill. It's looking like it's going to be your finishing order. Also, I think we've got Colby James and Nathan Healy pretty close to one another, but it looks like Healy's pulling away there. So now it's looking pretty good for all these drivers at the moment. And Shine now 1.5 seconds ahead of McMullen, who did take some time out on the last lap. He's a little bit faster as well as McMullen on this lap. But yeah, not looking like he's going to catch up in time, as we have some images of the top 2 have absolutely sprinted away from this opposition.
5.7 seconds now between O'Shea and Hussain. So Hussain just lapping consistently in the 41s, and O'Shea just unable to really match. He's been consistently in the 42s, so half a second a lap nearly, and Hussain is gaining on his championship rival. But now Hussain, of course, in the next race has got to fight from the back, and that seems to be where things go wrong for our championship leader, and possibly where Rory O'Shea might be able to gain some points. He's going to lose points to Hussain in this race, but could be able to gain some back. He'll be starting in front of him in the next race, so there's that silver lining. But yeah, a lap and a half to go now. for these top two. Kevin Shine in third, McMullen on for fantastic fourth place, I will say. McMullen, there he is, our third, fourth, fifth drivers right there, and sixth actually with João Monteiro as they file through the bus stop chicane. McMullen not catching Kevin Shine, but Rob O'Neill is slightly starting now to take a little bit of time out of McMullen, but he's got 1.2 seconds to McMullen now. Might be a little bit close. Might be able to catch him on this lap if he pushes hard. And João Monteiro just kind of falling a little ways back right now as a result of these guys upping the pace. So there's the difference in lap time right there. You can see on one particular lap 5, a 1.2 seconds gained by Rob O'Neill. And on that previous lap, 0.6 of a second taken out of Damien McMullen. So it could be tight, but McMullen should maybe just about have enough to hold on here.
Yeah, of course, once O'Neill's into the draft, that will really help him along. The draft effect's going to be really useful down the front stretch, and of course on the up the hill as well. However, he's still 1.4 seconds behind. O'Neill just not quite nailing that third to final corner, and I think that's going to leave him too far behind in order to make an effort. Final lap of the race for the drivers, and still Hussein leading 5.8 seconds clear. And his thoughts will already be on race 2 coming up. Of course, with the way that Hussein and O'Shea seem to have an advantage over the rest of the order, it's tricky for Hussein to really kind of make a gap to O'Shea. Sure, he does seem to have a decent pace advantage, but when his rival is finishing behind him by just 1 place in these race 1s, it really does put the pressure on to have a strong race 2 and beat O'Shea once again. And because if he does have an incident in race 2, then that would be really harmful for his championship campaign, but it does look like he's going to be able to extend the points that little bit more.
Yeah, just in the last 2 laps, Roy O'Shea has been kind of matching Naveed Hussein. Just a tenth or two between them, but it was that early part when Naveed Hussein was just banging in the lap times. O'Shea just couldn't keep up. Now he's holding it at 5.7, 5.8 seconds, but definitely not going to be enough unless there's a catastrophic last sector from Naveed Hussein as he comes towards the last 2 corners. It's another fantastic race 1 display from the championship leader as he comes towards the last corner. And once again, for the 4th time this year, rounding the final corner, Naveed Hussein wins the heat race here in Watkins Glen for round number 5 and gains even more points on his championship rival, Rory O'Shea, in 2nd place. Across the line to claim 2nd. And then we're going to have Kevin Shine going to cross the line in 3rd. You can see right there, Rory O'Shea just a 10th faster, so he was just gaining on him in the last lap or 2. Kevin Shine crossing the line for 3rd place. And Damien McMullen is going to cross for 4th. Rob O'Neill 5th. João Monteiro in 6th. Now we're looking at Dave Collier, who's spun out of 3rd place. He's going to cross the line in 7th. Then we're going to have Nathan Healy, Patrick McKenna, Colby James, James Clark, and reverse grid pole Shane Connolly after the crash in the latter part of the lap. So the grid then is set for the feature race. It would normally be a reverse grid of 15 drivers. We only have 12 with us so the entire grid is going to be reversed for this one. Naveed Hussein and Rory O'Shea are going to be starting from the back. James Clark and Shane Connolly starting from the front row. We hope you enjoyed that first heat race. We'll be back after this short message from Digital Motorsports.
Enjoying what you're watching and want to become the next sim racing star? Here at digitalmotorsports.com, not only can we supply all the parts, but we can custom build your dream simulator rig from start to finish. Just like we have done for world famous drivers like rally legend Craig Breen, drift superstars James Dean and Connor Shanahan. We can build, deliver and set up your full custom simulator rig in your home and offer round-the-clock support to keep you racing to the top. To find out more, visit digitalmotorsports.com.
Welcome back to the Digital Motorsports Indy Pro 2000 Cup. It's the Pro-Am tier sponsored by Next Level Racing and supported by Driver 61 and by iRacing. Naveed Hussein, the victor in Heat Race 1, his 4th win of the year. Now he's going to be starting from the back of the grid, as is the tradition with the feature race. Reverse grid with himself and Rory O'Shea on the back row and Shane Connolly and James Clark on the front row. Now, James Clark has been a winner before. Actually, he hasn't been a winner before. 2 podiums to his name. Now he's starting on the front row of the feature race. Is this now the opportunity for him to get his first win? Shane Connolly as well, no podiums and no wins. So now this is the kind of thing that we want to see. We want to see the feature race give opportunities to people who haven't had the chance to get a podium. And Sam, especially with a small grid as like today, there's big opportunities to get a good result.
Definitely, this is as good an opportunity as you're going to get. At the same time, of course, there's less cars between you and the top drivers. So Hussein's got to be aiming for the race win, even from 12th on the grid. It's very possible for him to claim that one. Where it's going to be a longer second race. We're going to have 15 laps, and that's 5 laps longer than what we had in race 1. So it should be enough time for Hussein and O'Shea to find their way up to the front. What I'm kind of looking forward to is the race start. The race starts in race 1 were not great. There were massive variations. We saw we saw O'Shea and Hussein absolutely nail it seemingly, and then others really getting a lot of wheel spins, some bogging down on the grid, and it changed the order significantly. These guys who are starting at the front for this race got to make sure they get a good start, because if you can get a good start, get into the lead, then everyone else might start fighting behind you. You can build up a nice gap at the start of the race and then maybe fall back in later on. But if you're in that midst in the first few laps of the race, then it's going to lose you a lot of time.
Now, granted, of course, we have a smaller grid today, but I think the Pro tier can take some notes, because that's possibly the cleanest first lap I've ever seen, with not a single incident. Colby James, 1 spin, but not a single piece of wheel-to-wheel contact, nothing coming through turn 1. So the Pro-Ams, I think, it does tend to go like this. The Pro-Ams tend to sometimes show up the pro guys in their racecraft.
I think maybe I don't want to say that these guys are less competitive. I think it's just as competitive, but yeah, maybe just a little bit more respect from these guys, and willing to leave a little bit more space in between one another. This is one of the worst circuits as well for lap time. It's not quite so bad in these cars, because in the GT3s are the worst I can think of, and the GTEs are pretty bad as well. First lap up the hill in the first few corners, it is really tricky to go flat out, and drivers will try it despite the tires being very cold. In this, it's going to be a bit easier. Now, if you jinx this, Jack, and we have a 12-car pile up, then it's all on you. But fingers crossed, it's just as good as we saw in race 1.
I've got a feeling it's going to end badly. But anyway, here we go. Grid for the feature race of round 5 of the Digital Motorsports Indy Pro 2000 Pro-Am series. Shane Connolly on the pole, James Clark, Colby James, Patrick McKenna, Nathan Healy, Dave Collier, Jean Montero, Rob O'Neill, Damien Mullen, Roy O'Shea, Naveed Hussein on the back as we go for 5 red lights here at Watkins Glen. Green light where Shane Connolly does not get away well. Colby James with a fantastic start from road. Immediately there's an accident. I have cursed it immediately. Jean Montero and Dave Collier come to blows at the start of the grid. One of the guys did not get off the grid at all, and Dave Collier, now they're in the wall. Colby James, fantastic start from row 2. Another car facing the wrong way. It's Rory O'Shea, the championship contender, facing the wrong way in turn number 1. I should not have said anything. Colby James leads after a fantastic start from row 2. Shane Connolly behind, James Clark third, Nathan Healy, Rob O'Neill, Patrick McKellar, McMullen, Shine, Hussein from the back of the grid. Now a little bit of fighting going on here. Shane Connolly moves to the outside line, but head towards the bus stop chicane. No moves on right there. James Clark having a little think about it as well as they come to the bus stop. Shane Connolly a little bit wide. Fighting going on behind as well. Rob O'Neill trying to get back past Nathan Healy. Patrick McKenna fighting with Damien McMullen. Right here as he looks to the inside line on the exit as they're coming towards the boot. Let's see if he can come on the outside here right now for Damien. No, he backs out. Rob O'Neill has a little look as they come into the boot. And you can see, I think James Clark made the move for second. Yes, James Clark moves into second ahead of Shane Connolly here as they fight it out. Connolly has to fall back. But yeah, shouldn't have said anything, Sam. Immediately it goes wrong.
Yeah, you won't be commentating later. I think we'll take you off the broadcast for those kinds. Strange start for Hussein, kind of just backing out. Maybe he realises that O'Shea's had an issue and he doesn't need to rush through these guys. But he's almost at the gap. Look at that, he's on the brakes halfway down the straight. So very careful is Hussein. Maybe he's been involved in a few too many incidents so far this season. And just wants to make absolutely sure that he can take his time and still win this race with the pace that he has got. And right now the drivers in front of them really slowing themselves up. McMullen on the outside of Shine. As there goes Hussein. That was pretty risky, to be fair. I'm not sure if McMullen knew that he was coming, but Hussein does take that advantage. And now as these cars start to spread out a little bit more, he can start to be a bit more liberal with these overtakes at the front of this. In fact, James Clark has just taken the lead of the race, being able to get past James with the fastest lap of the race on that lap 1. However, and that's a big off as well, and that is for Hussein. So he was taking his time. Maybe he wasn't taking enough time. Will Collier get past him? Collier's still behind by quite a long way. This is how this one happened then. It looks as though this has got to be Hussein's fault. To go over ahead. Oh no, dearie me. Well, that's a penalty if I've ever seen one. That was that McMullen who went into the back of him? Yeah.
Yeah, no front wing for Damien Mullen right there. Luckily enough, it looks like Hussein's got away without any major damage, but Damien McMullen has now got no front wing. But crucially now, Rory O'Shea's ahead of him, and 4 seconds ahead of him now, as O'Shea's now just caught McMullen as a result of that. Not quite sure what happened there. Complete mistiming of braking now. Rory O'Shea around the outside now and gets it done. Now he's got a golden opportunity to gain on this championship rival right here, as he tries now to catch back up. So now they've both had issues. Rory O'Shea spinning by himself in turn 1, and Hussein getting punted in the rear end into turn 1. So they both had their issues, but as a result of all that, James Clark leads, and we have this little battle going on here. Rory O'Shea, Rob O'Neill up the inside of Kevin Shine, as this little battle is going on for a little while now. Shine trying to look back as O'Neill has a little late lunge. Patrick McKenna, can he get the run out as they head down towards the last 2 quarters? It's going to be a little bit of wheel contact right there as they come through. O'Neill going to try and stick it up the inside, not quite going to work out. McKenna hangs it around the outside. But I think at the moment, the cork in the bottle seems to be Nathan Healy. He's the one who's held firm for the moment, as McKenna now moves to the inside line as I say that, and he gets a great run out of the last corner and should be able to slot it in. Comes across the front of Nathan Healy. What on earth was that? Poor old Nathan Healy is now going to have damage on the front right. Has he got back going? Yes, he has, but certainly going to be damage right there. And that was a pretty clear cut. McKenna just coming straight across his nose.
I can only imagine he thought that he was clear. I thought he may have been clear, to be fair. But he really wasn't, and he just shoves him off into the wall. Really strange, that incident, and why you'd be so desperate to get back onto the racing line as well. Very strange. Shine ahead of O'Neill, and now there's another spin for Shine, who had a legit chance at winning this race. Remember, P3 in race 1, and he's struggling to get the car back going as well. He seemed to get the move done, did Shine, and then just coming back, it was actually an epic move around the outside, not easy to do. And then just the tap from O'Neill as Shine kind of slowed up, of course, was taking a very acute angle to the previous corner. Great showing for Shiner, and there's few cars now who haven't had setbacks. A good half of the order, pretty much all the front runners as well from race 1 have had issues so far. So really is opening up, and it's allowing O'Shea and Hussein, despite spins on the opening lap, to have a very good chance at winning this race.
Yeah, I think Rob O'Neill did his very best to avoid the rear end of Kevin Shine, but just the slightest tap was enough to send it, because the car is loaded on the right-hand side as well as you're coming through the bus stops. The slightest tap will send him around. I tell you, the man who's lighting up the timing screen is Patrick McKenna. He's catching the leaders right now. He's just on the end of the back straight right now. There he is. He's flying behind as he's catching up to Shane Conley. James Clark fast lap of the race. McKenna is setting some really good times as well. He had a pretty poor one on that lap, but he is going very well. There is Rory O'Shea. Now he started at the back of the grid, don't forget, as Rob O'Neill now loses the place to him in 5th place. Damien McMullen into the pit lane now for his pit stop, and Rory O'Shea gaining some good points on Hussein right now. Hussein's not too far behind him, to be fair. Hussein's caught up behind Nathan Healy right now, and obviously he was very cautious in the opening few laps as well, which was helping him, but didn't help him in the end as he got punted in the rear end. But now Hussein to the outside of Nathan Healy. Does Nathan fight this? He's got damage, don't forget. He's going to have a run on the outside. Hussein, can he get a stop on the outside? Hit Nathan, backs out of that one. I think wisely. He's carrying front wing damage as well. There's nothing he could have done about that one. And Hussein into 7th place right now. And now his next victim is Rob O'Neill, who's just up ahead of him. He's got to run him, and I think Rob O'Neill's just let him through right there. He's not going to try and fight with him, because I think as well Rob O'Neill's carrying damage from the contact with Kevin Shine. So now, after all of that, both of them having their issues, Hussein and O'Shea together, as Nathan Healy around the outside of Rob O'Neill. Both of these guys carrying damage, but Healy manages to get the run all the way around the outside line. Still neck and neck here, but O'Neill backs out of it. He's got more damage on the front end. But now, as I was saying, after all of that, all the issues, O'Shea and Hussein back together on track as McKenna has a lunge at Shane Connolly coming through the hairpin. Doesn't quite pay off, and now he's going to get squeezed on the inside line. He's going to stick one up the inside here as they come through. It's a tricky place to try it. Connolly runs out a little bit wide, manages to hold on now. McKenna left on the outside, and Connolly has to back out of that one. Aggressive stuff, but McKenna on a real charge right now. He's got about 7 seconds to the leader. Lap 5 of 15. Could possibly be a possibility for McKenna, but needs to get a move on.
Yeah, I think he should be able to catch up. The problem for him is Hussein is about 10 seconds off the lead at the moment and lapping over a second a lap faster than the race leaders. I say that actually, James Clark, get out of here. Stunning lap time that time, 41.94, just at the fastest sector 2 of anyone as well, Clark. So he is lighting up these time screens. Was a bit underwhelming in race 1, but he's alive now in this race too. Pace like that will certainly win him this race. Hussein only with a 41.94. In fact, Clark has the fastest lap of the race at the moment. So he's looking really good at the moment. Fastest second sector just in for Rory O'Shea. So he's also saying some good times. Yeah, McKenna, I mean, only just behind Corby James now. James with a very poor first sector on this lap, losing about 1.5 seconds already on this lap is the P2 driver. I think McKenna might be passed into the toe. No, he stays behind him for now. He needs to get past quickly because, of course, Connolly will be back onto the rear of him, and they've only got 3 seconds now to Rory O'Shea.
Yes, McKenna trying to get a move on here. But yeah, James Clark setting a legitimate pace. And remember, he has not won a race this season, so he'll be desperate to hold on to it. As McKenna firmly in the toe of Colby James, who was in the lead on lap number 1 with a great getaway from row 2. But look at the run. McKenna, he has to back out of it a little bit. He gets a wash of dirty air coming through the last corner right there. And that's cost him a run towards turn 1. You'll see there, they're not lapping at the same pace as the leader right here. Nowhere near, actually. But Rory O'Shea, fastest lap of the race that time by, and taken immediately by Naveed Hussein, who's behind him as well. Those guys are lighting up the timing sheets, and they've got to get a move on as well. They're 2 seconds off the back of these guys. Off the back of Connolly here. But now here we go. McKenna to the outside of Colby James, who holds the inside line for all of his might now as they come down towards the bus stop chicane. McKenna's going to have to go around the outside if he wants to take this move. Does he back out of it, or does he try and sweep around the outside? He's going to have a go around the outside and manages to get it done. It's always scary trying that one. McKenna pulled it off beautifully. Fantastic move. When you got the momentum like that, it's very tricky to repel your opponent. Back comes James here, but after McKenna went slightly wide. Now this is a couple of big laps for him. Got to try to pull away from James as quickly as he possibly can. Hussein now into the mid-40s. He wants 41.5. They share 41.6. We're 2 seconds faster than Colby James on that last lap. Colby James, to be fair, I think making a mistake on that last time around near the start of the lap. James still in this toe though of McKenna, and it seemed as though on that onboard that the penultimate corner is a drafting spot. It kind of reminds me a bit of Cops and Abbey also at Silverstone. When you watch the Formula 1 day, it's so easy flat out that it's just like an extra slipstream area. And it seems to be the case in these cars as well, where you can be deep in the draft and still be going flat out through that penultimate corner. So loads of slipstream for these drivers. 6/10 of a second at the moment. You can see that gap is coming down between Connolly and James, which means that probably James has just lost that draft effect slightly. Has a big slide as well for James, and that's going to kill his exit. And it's a big gap at the moment. Dare I say, I think Connolly's going to have a good chance at an overtake into the bus stop. Yeah, he's got to gain some ground, certainly, on Colby James. But remember, James will also have the toe off Patrick McKenna as well. And you can just see Rory O'Shea and Naveed Hussein in the background as well. They've closed up quite quickly to these guys. There's Rory O'Shea being chased by Naveed Hussein, who just sets the fastest lap of the race in that previous lap by through the bus stop. And guys flying up to them right now. Both of these guys start at the back of the grid. They've both had spins, so they're recovering well at this moment in time. It's Naveed trying to get himself further up the order to keep his championship lead going into the final round in 2 weeks' time. But Rory O'Shea has very much caught Shane Connolly now as they come up through the boots, coming up to the heel, or coming up to the toe, actually, should I say. Now Rory O'Shea firmly in the draft, coming up to the toe, in the toe. Let's see if he can get it done here as he moves to the inside line. Can he get it stopped on the brakes here? Conley has every right to fight it, hangs around the outside, gets a better line on the exit as well and holds on to it. So he has to keep himself behind for now. Can't afford to battle too much because look how much that's brought Naveed Hussain into that. That was only a corner of battling, and suddenly Naveed Hussain is right on his tail now, up the inside into the last two corners now, side by side. Oh, there's going to be contact right there, possibly a bit of net code happening there as well. And they come to blows. Rory O'Shea coming together with Shane Conley, who was doing an excellent job in fourth place, and now he's out of this race. But that contact now has brought Naveed Hussain right into this fight right now, and that was so unfortunate. Definitely looked to be possibly netcode and possibly a bit of both, actually. A little bit wrong for Rory O'Shea, but certainly netcode sending Shane Conley to the Shadow Realm.
Didn't seem as though he kind of understeered a whole lot there, did O'Shea? It was always going to be tricky to kind of keep two cars alongside that corner. I think, if anything, I think Conley should have just left a little bit more spaces here. Goes Hussain down the inside. Can O'Shea repel this one? They leave plenty of room. Very nice move there from Hussain. It was bold to go for it down the inside, but then he left good space to his rival through the second part of the bus stop, and he gets ahead, and that is going to extend his championship margin, which looked unlikely at lap 2, turn 1. Now 2 seconds to catch up to James, and 4 seconds to catch up to McKenna. So, and hard into the wall there is James. I think that's the same mistake he made in race 1 as well, at the exact same corner. That is a real trouble spot. Wonder if we'll see the pro drivers do that later on as well. But he's just run wide here onto the grass. In fact, he's lost it a lot earlier. And yeah, hard into the wall. And once again, that dash model does look fantastic. That might be looking fantastic from the cockpit of that car.
Certainly not. Yeah, it was unusual. Lost it mid-corner, so that was going around as soon as he turned it in for poor old Colby James. That promotes Hussain to the podium, and Rory O'Shea still kind of sticking with it. You can see him now, Hussain trying to break the draft as he comes down the front straight. A great lap, I tell you, from Patrick McKenna. He took a second out of our leader that time, 1:41.4, which is almost the fastest lap. Not quite the fastest lap. It's a 41.3 for Naveed Hussain, but 41.4. Patrick McKenna, a second faster than James Clark. So certainly not over yet, but James Clark has a good gap at the moment. Hussain setting good laps as well, doing his best to try and break the toll. But Rory O'Shea certainly not letting go of the back of Hussain. He knows that he's his championship rival, and he needs to stick with him as much as possible. Needs to get in front of him. Ideally, any points gained is better than losing points in his mind. As they come down towards the boot once again, he's going to just stick in the toll for now. But Naveed Hussain onto the podium and picked up his 4th win of the season, just in heat race number 1, and really showing what he's made of, even after getting punted in the rear and sent around in turn 1. He's managed to fight his way back to 3rd place. He's got 3.6 seconds to Patrick McKenna. Now McKenna is also lapping at a similar pace to him, so it's going to be quite difficult for him to catch. It's a massive moment for Patrick McKenna. How on earth did he hold on to that one? It was sideways going in and sideways coming out. He's really pushing, but I think that's definitely lost him at least 0.4 of a second.
Maybe the tyres going off slightly. Maybe he's overheated the tyres a bit. But yeah, that car was very leery. It was all using the same setup for this championship. Very much a staple of digital motorsports. It makes the order a lot more competitive. I was going to say a few moments ago, just what was going on in race 1 with the pace? I mean, you think how far clear Hussain and O'Shea were. They were 15 seconds clear by the end of the race. And then in this race too, we've had Clark setting some fantastic lap times. McKenna has been absolutely flying as well. I don't know what was going on with those guys earlier on in the day, but now that they are reaching their potential, it's fantastic to see. Clark dropping off the pace quite a bit compared to what he was doing earlier on. He was consistently in the high 41s. He's dipping into the 42s now, is Clark. As McKenna's made another mistake, and it was coming. It was coming, you have to say. That car, I don't know what's happened with the tyres on that thing. And, well, seems like he's maybe taking a little bit too much curb there. I'm not quite sure. I assume these cars can take a decent amount of that curb, but lost it very early on.
Yeah, as soon as he turned in, the rear end was gone, so I would wager that was rear tires overheating. But yeah, he's used those tires to be within an inch of their life, pushing to try and catch up to James Clark, but it's not worked. But that's now putting Naveed Hussain and Rory O'Shea onto the podium, and James Clark caught in a little bit of traffic. Now Nathan Healy moves to the side and lets him through. So 7.4 seconds in James Clark and Naveed Hussain, and there's the amount of time he's gaining, 8/10, but that's not enough. He needs to be gaining almost a second and a half a lap to have a chance here. Naveed Hussain, James Clark pushing for his first win in the Pro-Am tier. And of course, don't forget this series sponsored by Next Level Racing, and Next Level Racing, of course, giving away 2 sim rigs. If you check the description, if you're watching on Apex Racing TV, you can enter the giveaway, and that ends in 2 weeks' time at the final round. So get yourselves entered into that fantastic competition. If you want to take your sim racing to the next level, go with Next Level Racing. Link in the description. James Clark leading now, 6.6 back to Naveed Hussain. So he's losing time now quite fast to Naveed Hussain, but at this point, he needs to just limit it that he's not being caught by a second and a half a lap, because if he is, then it's going to be quite tight. He just needs to keep his head in check and hold on to the end and secure his first win. Naveed Hussain trying to push for his 5th win of the season. Rory O'Shea trying to stick with him, but at the moment he's not quite doing that. Hussain's built 1.3 over him. As you can see, Patrick McKenna's got back going. He's only lost 2 spots, even with that massive high speed off he had in the bus stop chicane. But Hussain is really on a big push right now, and gaining time on Clark at the moment. It's a big ask, but he's got 4 laps when we cross the line next time to try to catch James Clark out front, but it could just be a little bit too little too late. If he hadn't got spun around, perhaps they'd already be together.
Yeah, I think from the start of the race we kind of knew that there was going to have to be something that would have to happen to Hussain to deny him this race win. Clark once again, of course, dipping slower and slower. It's difficult to tell if Hussain's getting any slower because, of course, he was in traffic earlier on, so maybe his earlier lap times weren't quite represented. But he is getting faster. It seems is Hussain. Just wonder if Clark maybe is just leaving a bit on the table. 42.2, that's better for Clark that time now. That's one of his better laps recently, and he is very consistent between 42.1s and 42.3s, which would be plenty enough. Hussain in the 41.28, but still 5.6 seconds to catch with 4 laps to go. So, as you were saying before, Jack, 1.5 seconds are going to be needed in order to catch in time. Is there going to be any traffic for Clark? He did have to get past Healy a few laps ago, but besides that, not really anyone. Maybe Colby James he might have to overtake in the closing stages as well. But that's all looking very good. And also, welcome. I don't know if Jonathan Faster is still is still watching this, but fantastic name for a race driver. It's up there with Scott Speed. Jonathan Faster. If that's not a pro racing driver, I don't know who is.
Perfect. But yeah, James Clark is 6.4 behind Colby James. Oh, and Naveed Hussain spun it! That's the same corner that we've had 3 drivers go off, and it shows how hard he was pushing. He's lost it by himself in the boot. Now, does he lose it on the power? Yeah. Oh, big twitch, and very lucky to keep it out of the wall, and Rory O'Shea almost got taken with him. Naveed Hussain did very well to get that back going, facing the right way. Inches from the wall, very nearly a DNF, but keeps 3rd place. Very lucky, but now loses 2nd place to his rival, and that's surely going to cement James Clark's win now.
Wonder if we could get the track conditions back up on screen for a moment. I know it'll be a hassle because of the track map and such. But yeah, 43 degrees track temperature. Now, thanks to Sam for showing us that. So it has got a bit warmer because it's getting later on in the day. Usually it peaks at about 2:30. If anyone's ever been alive, that's usually when it's the warmest in the afternoon. And so it is just getting warmer and warmer at the minute for these drivers. I wonder if that's got something to do with the drivers spinning round and the tyres perhaps degrading a bit more. Of course, we didn't go this far in race 1. Race 1 was only 10 laps long, so this is pushing the tyres longer than what they were doing in race 1. 3 seconds now the gap between O'Shea and Hussain. That's possible for Hussain to catch back up because O'Shea is only doing mid-42s. He did a 42.59 that last time round. Hussein has been as low as a 41.28, so he's potentially got 1.2 seconds a lap on his championship driver. So it's possible they could catch up, but I imagine O'Shea was probably backing off before, waiting for a mistake, and that was pretty wise. I think now O'Shea will start to step it up a little bit himself, and Hussein maybe with a little bit of his confidence chipped out, and it's once again going to be another race to win that goes begging. And of course we've only just jumped into this championship, but I wonder if maybe other race twos this season have kind of followed a similar story where maybe there's a bit of unluck for Hussein and maybe a little bit of shooting himself in the foot as well.
Yeah, so wonder will it come eventually in the final race? Because even if you think back to the Porsche Championship, Oscar Mangan, his race twos always didn't go his way, starting from the back of the grid, and eventually only got the win in the final round. So you can see there, yeah, Naveed Hussein 141.4, but Roy O'Shea just only 3/10 slower. So O'Shea's picked it up, has definitely picked it up a little notch here to make sure he holds on to second, because it is crucial points that he gains back on his rival, and 2 podiums, two second places actually. It'll be a great result for him. So he comes down to the bus stop again, catching Nathan Healy, who is a lap down after a little bit of problems for him earlier. But 2 drivers out of this race, Shane Connolly and Dave Collier, going to be non-finishes in this one. With James Clark now, he's got a lap and a half to go to secure his first win in the championship. We see plenty of that in the pro tier, but certainly there's been a lot more domination, I think, in the Pro-Am class, and it seems now that there's a changing of the guard possibly happening as he comes now. He's got Colby James 3.3 seconds ahead of him. 3 seconds ahead of him now at this point. So I don't think he's going to catch him on this lap, but he's got 1 more lap to go. He needs to make sure that he makes 0 mistakes, because we've seen how costly 1 mistake is. If you get on the power too early, Colby James found out, you're going in the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to be careful. Like, he's driven a very mature second half of the race because, like I said a few times, he has slowed down, but he's still got plenty enough for this race win. Final lap of the race, and he's still got 6 seconds clear on the rest of the order. So looking absolutely fantastic for him at the moment. Kevin Conye, thanks for tuning in, saying how we use the metric system rather than the imperial. Which I'm glad that he's pleased about that, because we're not Americans, and so we will use the metric system. So happy that he is enjoying that at the moment. Nice move there from O'Neill. He's been catching up for a while, but has a big spin. And grip is at a premium out there. They really are sliding a lot. These cars usually slide, but it's just as though you can't almost slide anymore. That if you do slide, then you're going to lose the car, and it's very difficult to catch at the moment. The drivers aren't able to hustle the cars in these really, really hot temperatures out here at Watkins Glen. So it is a struggle for them, but not being a struggle for James Clark. He has driven pretty much faultless.
Just to go back on the imperial system, Fahrenheit is stupid. I don't know why anyone uses it. Rant over. James Clark. We're going to go to the last couple of corners now. He's driven brilliantly and has held on to that race lead since lap number 2. He's got Roy O'Shea 5 seconds behind him, but he just needs to make sure that he negotiates these last couple of corners cleanly, and he is going to be crowned the winner at Watkins Glen for the first time in the Pro-Am class, rounding the last corner. It's always a special moment coming through the last corner for the first time. James Clark wins in Watkins Glen in the Pro-Am class. Well done to him. Roy O'Shea in second, and Naveed Hussein, who put on a big push at the end. He comes across in third place. He set the fast lap of the race on the lap 14 and a 140.9. A really rapid lap time for Naveed Hussein, but he's on the podium. But Roy O'Shea gains points. And Patrick McKenna in fourth, Kevin Shine fifth, Jean Montero, Damien McMullen, Rob O'Neill, Colby James, and 3 drivers out of this race, Nathan Healy, Shane Connolly, and Dave Collier. Here's the little battle happening between Rob O'Neill and Damien McMullen. Rob O'Neill tried it here a lap earlier, managed to hang on to the drift through there, getting a good run. This could be quite close, actually, as they're coming through the last 2 corners right now. see if McMullen's going to be able to hang on to this 7th place. O'Neill's pushing really hard, gets on the grass, and that's going to be 8th place secure for him at least. He pushed hard, but not quite enough. Crossing the line, Montero, McMullen, O'Neill, and Colby James in 9th place. So James Clark, his first win in the series, and a fantastic job by him. We're going to be hearing from these guys in about an hour's time, because believe it or not, we're straight into the pro tier in just a few minutes time. So stick around, there'll be a brand new stream up on Apex Racing TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. We look forward to seeing you there. This has been the Pro-Am tier for the digitalmotorsports.com Indy Pro 2000 Pro-Am class. We'll see you in just a few minutes for the Pro class. Thank you and good evening.
Are you itching to get racing? Whether it's circuit racing, drifting, rallying, or even karting, here at digitalmotorsports.com, we run some of the best online leagues in the world. To get involved, visit our website at digitalmotorsports.com and enroll for our next event.